Hey, sweetie pie, how are you? I'm here to answer some questions for Hector. So, he's here. He's really embarrassed right now, but that's okay. So I have to answer these questions. I've done this for multiple students, but here's my next one. So, first question is this: what is your favorite part of the Old Testament and why? So, I think my favorite part of the Old Testament. I've said multiple answers, I think, but I think my favorite one is the book of Isaiah. The reason why is because Isaiah has this really beautiful picture of who Jesus is. And as you read the book of Isaiah, you get a better idea of who Christ is, which is cool because you don't see that in a lot of the other Old Testament books. You do see those things come up, but not as vividly as you do in Isaiah. And what's cool about that is that Jesus isn't even on the scene yet. Jesus is still with God, and over 700, 800 years later, Jesus is finally there. So the fact that Isaiah speaks of Jesus in such detail is, I think, something that's super incredible about the Old Testament, and it's probably the reason why it's my favorite book or my favorite part of the Old Testament. The second question is this: what value does the Old Testament have for the modern Christian? So the way that I've kind of answered this is it has meaning because it lays the foundation for the New Testament. And so the reason why that's important is because the New Testament helps us to understand what it looks like to follow Christ, what it looks like to be a Christian, and what it looks like for us to understand that. And so that's, I think, the biggest reason and the most important reason. I think the second reason is because it gives us a sense of identity. So when you're looking at the book of Genesis and God is talking about the fact that we were made in his image, well, it gives each of us something to put our identity in. Some of us would put our identity in our work or our hobbies or the things that we do. And God says, yeah, those things are great, but if you make those things your identity, they're not going to be very good to sustain you for the rest of your life. And so God calls us his sons and his daughters, and he establishes that in the book of Genesis. And so that's another important reason why it's valuable for Christians, because it gives us a sense of identity. It gives us a sense of purpose. And I think the third reason is because it shows where we came from. So many people have questions about the Old Testament, asking, why is it that there's so many bad things that happen to good people? Well, the book of Genesis answers that, which is part of the Old Testament. And it talks about the fact that there was a serpent, and because of the serpent, we fell. And humanity fell, and we needed somebody to save us. And so there's a lot of deep, meaningful answers that come from the Old Testament that help us to understand who we are and how an individual should follow Christ. There's also things about the law, which we'll probably get into a little bit as well, but I think for the modern Christian, that's why it's valuable. Okay, number 3, what ways have you found to help people connect to the Old Testament? Well, I think a big one is trying to find stories which allow individuals to understand who they are in Christ. So, for example, you have the story of David and Goliath, and it's the story of this account of a guy trying to slay the giant and trying to kill the giant. And the whole point of the story is that David is representing Christ, and that we don't know how to slay the giants in our lives, and yet we have somebody who can do that. And so Christ does that for us. And so the Old Testament allows us, the best way that I see is to find stories that help connect the Old Testament to a person's life. When you're looking at Moses and the fact that God was incredibly faithful, well, we can look at our lives and we can say, wow, God has been incredibly faithful to us. And so I think that's an important key aspect in helping people connect to the Old Testament. And then you have things like the Psalms. So the Psalms is an incredible book because David seems to be pouring out his heart and telling people just how much he loves the Lord, the kinds of hurts that he's going through, the fact that he's angry with God. And so as we read through the Psalms, we see that there's this beautiful picture of individuals coming together and and being honest with God, which is something that can be very hard for individuals. So I think in those ways, people can connect with the Old Testament, and I think those are the best ways that I've seen people connect with the Old Testament. And then the last question is this: what is the greatest challenge you face in using the Old Testament in the context of your ministry? So I think one of the biggest challenges is that a lot of people just don't care about the Old Testament. They just don't care about the Bible in general. The Bible is a boring old book. And so the question becomes, how do you make those things interesting, right? How do you make the stories of the text interesting? And so, again, the best way is to find ways to have the Old Testament connect to an individual's life. And that can be tough because some of the stories in the Old Testament are not very fun. When you're reading through Chronicles and it has all of these names in the first 9 to 10 chapters, it's like, that's not a fun thing to be going through. And so how do you help people to understand that these things are important to their life? How is the Old Testament important to their life? I think is the biggest challenge in making it important. And so if there's ways to be able to help people understand that the Old Testament actually has a personal impact on their life, then they would be more interested in learning about it. I think another challenge is that it's just hard to understand. There's a lot of just weird things that happen in different stories, and there's different accounts about just different things that aren't necessarily normal things. And so a big challenge is just simply understanding what the stories mean and interpreting the stories. So when you're reading about David and Goliath, and when you're reading about the fact that the parting of the Red Sea happened, and you have Sodom and Gomorrah, and you've got the flood. So how do we all make sense of these things? Well, there's a lot of difficulties in that, and you have to find really creative ways to understand those stories and interpret them correctly. So I think those are the major challenges, is just simply the excitement or the lack of excitement around the Old Testament, and the simple fact that the interpretation of the text can be muddied if one doesn't understand it. So those are my answers. See you, Fleener. Take care.
Hey, Fleener. I hope you're doing well. I'm here to answer the questions for my AXA expert. The first question here says, what is your greatest personal challenge as a student in the studying of the Old Testament? Honestly, it was hard for me because I don't know that much about the Bible. Like, I don't know nothing at all. So I just found it very difficult. Here's the second question. Says, do you agree or disagree with the specialist opinion on values of the Old Testament for modern Christians? I agree with Dominic because the Old Testament help us understand about the New Testament. That's why I do believe as well, and I agree. Number 3, what could have made your specialist answer stronger? I believe that Dominic, if he would have used more modern situations in his life, it would have like involved situations in his life, it would have made the responses more stronger. And then what is one suggestion effectively engage students in some part of the life and congregation? Honestly, if they want to learn and not affect the Old Testament, like learning the Old Testament, I think they should put situations of the Old Testament in their modern life, like in life situations. That way they can understand it better. Those are my 4 questions, and I hope you have a great day.